Hey, it's Leila Rahimi, and I'm back with another Bears post-game video. What do you say after that game against the Bengals? How do you begin to describe what we just saw? Slowly, process. I think the first thing for me, though, is the fact that the Bengals dared the Bears to do exactly what Joe Flacco did and led the team down to score. The Bengals scored 15 points in 49 seconds time. And then it was the Bears' turn to try to march down the field with less than a minute to play. And they said, Bears, Caleb Williams, try to do this. And you know what? The Bears did it. Not only did they do it, they scored 47 points. Not something I thought I would say. And they won the game. This one was an absolute barn burner, similar to what we saw with the Bengals and the Jets last week. But the good news is the Bears used some of those concepts and I think some of the film and leaned on what they did well in order to get the job done. So let's do this Seinfeld style. Let's start from the end rather than the beginning. That was what I was first thinking when I saw the Bears go down the field and win, as I said, Joe Flacco at 40 years old with a sprained AC joint in his shoulder just showed you what he can still do. He can run that 2-minute drill to perfection. He can find the necessary receivers. And when he wasn't finding Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, guess who else he found? The rest of the team was able to spread the ball around in a way that was effective. Shades of what we saw in that game that they last played last week, where the Jets ended up winning. If you're the Bengals, it's not been a good 2 weeks for your team. But for the Bears to be able to come back and win in the way they did, after allowing those defensive and frankly special teams lapses, that's a big deal. The Bears with 5 wins already surpass their 2024 total. And the first thing I thought was not just Caleb Williams going down the field and doing the thing and stepping up in the pocket, by the way, throwing over the middle to Colston Loveland. He gets the coverage they want on that play. The Bears talk about getting the coverage they want on that play. Loveland takes advantage of missed Bengals tackles. The shoulder tackle doesn't work like that in the NFL. Rarely do you see that shoulder tackle work, especially when the mismatch is there physically. Mac Brown always says you can't coach height. Loveland rumbles 58 yards. The Bears are able to win the game. But the thing I thought about too is the Bears don't win this game last year. Period. They don't win this game the year before. They don't win this game the year before that. And dare I say the year before that, they don't win it either. That is a massive sign of progress for this team. Was it pretty? No. Even Ben Johnson said that. Ben Johnson said in multiple interviews after the game that he walked into the locker room and he could tell that there were players who weren't satisfied with their performances. That's important. You're talking about a team wanting to go from good to great. So what does that mean? That means that you're happy with the win, because in the NFL, those don't come around very often. But then again, you don't want to have to win like that. I mentioned special teams breakdowns. There were a lot of them. Kickoff unit needed work, as we've mentioned. The Bengals got excellent field possession for so many of their drives. And then not just that, but we saw what happened with Cairo Santos. Was it a blocked field goal that hooked this away, if you're watching on TV? Or I think it was this away, since my camera's mirroring me. This is a selfie camera. The point is it hooked to the left. So was that a block? Was that something where it was just a plain miss with the accuracy? Did it have its trajectory affected by something else? I feel like it did. It looked like it did, but the TV broadcast did not let us know that. So I'm looking forward to see what the answer is there. I hate to be the one to dwell on that type of stuff, but you needed those points at the end of the game. The good news is the Bears were able to get it done. Kyle Monangai had a tremendous game. How do you say or put into words what he was able to do? We knew that the responsibility would be on him with DeAndre Swift out because of that nagging groin injury, and he came through. Now keep in mind, the Bengals led up and allowed 254 yards of rushing against the Jets. Against the Jets. It was the Jets. The Bears play the Giants next week, already on my mind. So the Bears can look at that tape and they can look at that 254-yard number on the ground that the Jets were able to rack up the week before against the Bengals and use that to their advantage. Think about the Bears and Saints game where they were able to run for 222 yards in that game, and that was a big reason why they were able to win. What did they do in this one? 283 yards on the ground for the Bears, and 176 of it was Kyle Monangai. Just incredible numbers when you consider the amount of offense that there was in this game. Unfortunately, there was a lot of offense on the other side as well. Joe Flacco throws for 470 yards in the game. 40-year-old, bad shoulder, Joe Flacco. And by the way, on the Tremaine Edmonds interception that wasn't, we thought it was a 96-yard interception that would return it for a touchdown, and then I feel like the game would have really been in hand. Did you guys notice that Flacco was the one running all the way back with Tremaine Edmonds, and Montez Sweat had to push him away before Edmonds ran into the end zone? Incredible. How does he keep doing this at this age? What in the name of Varsity Blues backroom needle is he getting over there? Not saying that's happening. It's just a good reference. So credit to Joe Flacco and his athleticism, and we're able to say that because of what the Bears are able to do. A couple other things that are worth pointing out. Caleb Williams passes for 280 yards. Tyson Bagent with 20 on the fun, creative play that we saw there too. And when we break down this game, I think it really comes down to the progress is in the fact that it's a win. The progress is in the fact that this is a Bears team that was dared to outscore the Bengals, and they did it. You can look at those things and say there's a lot to improve on here, but one of the biggest, I think, points of encouragement for me was seeing that not only did the Bears win the game on that Colson Loveland throw and they were able to march down the field and get what they needed, but that was a throw that Caleb Williams needed. That was in the pocket, that was over the middle, and he was able to find the physical mismatch, and they were able to get it. Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams talked about how they were looking for that coverage. That's why it matters. That's why the last 2 minutes before the half matter. It's a rehearsal for what could happen in the end of the game. And it was said that they were looking for that coverage in other plays that were previous in the game, trying to take what the defense gives you, and then they got the coverage they wanted when it absolutely counted the most. That is absolutely huge. Ben Johnson with some really good quotes in this one. He said, "I think the best thing is there's excitement and we won't apologize for winning, but there's a number of guys who are disappointed. That's how teams get good, when they recognize it's not up to the standard. I'm excited to see the locker room like that after the game. That means they know that winning isn't the only thing that matters. They want to learn from this and improve. But to just win this game, that sincerely is massive improvement for the Bears. I was skeptical. I didn't know if they were going to make it happen after we saw Super Joe go down the field twice, and then the Bengals recover the onside kick, even though the ball didn't travel 10 yards. That stinks. Think about how we'd be talking about the game if that happened. Now, the problem is the Bengals only punted one time in this game. The only thing that stopped these two teams was themselves. Now, granted, there were other ways that the drives were stopped, whether it was interception, fumble, turnover on downs because of a missed field goal. But the Bengals only punted once. The Bears punted twice. And their second punt, well, that was the one where they were up 14, and then they punt the ball away up 41-27 with 2:24 left. What can happen? What could happen then? 15 points in 49 seconds. That's what happened. But the Bears are able to come away with a win. And in the NFL, that's really an incredible feat. We talk all the time about, oh, this game was crazy, that game was crazy. When in reality, most games in the NFL are decided by one score. This one, you can truly say it. We have more coming up all this week on 670 The Score. I will break down some of the points that need to be discussed because you can't win like that every week. But I think for the coaching staff, I bet those lessons are a lot easier to teach after a win like that. Please like, please subscribe, and thanks for watching.